ladies, these are the answers to page 52 set B from the 3.1 homework from yesterday. Go ahead and press pause so that you have some time to go over these answers, and feel free to ask any questions, help each other out on some of these, and get some of those things figured out. So press pause now and then go ahead and hit play again when you're ready for notes for today. Okay, today we are going to learn about 3.2, which is addition and subtraction of rational numbers. You'll notice that this typically, addition and subtraction, anytime that you're dealing with fractions, is a little bit more complicated than multiplication and division like you did yesterday. The main reason why is that when you're doing addition or subtraction with any algebraic function, but in particular fractions, you need to have the common denominator in the two ratios that you're combining. So for example, if you were just using fractions with numbers or numerical values, if you had 3 halves minus, let's say 4, fifths, okay, I need to make a common denominator. My common denominator here would be 10. So I'd multiply this side by 5 over 5 or something equivalent to 1, this side by 2 over 2, and then continue on with that. We're going to use that same idea to answer a question similar to this example. So notice that I have to figure out, first of all, what is my lowest common denominator? Well, in this case, since one denominator is 6 and the other denominator is 3, I would have that my lowest common denominator is 6. So now I want to ask myself, okay, the left side, the left ratio already has a denominator of 6. The right side, what do I need to do to get to 6? Well, I need to multiply the 3 by 2. But I can't just multiply the denominator of one of the ratios by 2. I have to multiply it by something equivalent to 1 or 2 over 2. So now I'm going to rewrite this. X minus 7 over 6 minus, notice that the 2 would distribute it in, so this would be 4x plus 2 over 6. Now, because I'm subtracting, the subtraction symbol has to go into both pieces as I combine this into one fraction. So I'd have x minus 7 minus 4x minus 2 all over 6. Combine like terms, so negative 3x minus 9 all over 6. And notice, just like we were talking about yesterday, or that you read about yesterday, from this numerator I could factor out a 3. So if I factored out a 3, I'd have 3 on the outside, and then negative x minus 3 over 6. Well, now the 3 and the 6 can cancel out, so I'm left with just 1 over 2, excuse me. So I'd have negative x minus 3 over 2. That would be a great answer. Depending on how you factored things and if you had any negatives, you could also end up with x plus 3 over negative 2. These two different values are the same answer. They're just written in a slightly different way based off of where the negative was distributed. Let's look at a little more complicated question. Sometimes it's necessary to factor the denominators to determine the least common denominator. So you may need to factor these out first. I always, as a rule of thumb, just factor. Excuse me. So if you factor the denominators automatically, then you're sure to not necessarily miss anything. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Factor this left side, n over, start with your 2 sets of parentheses. And I do n squared minus 5. Oops, excuse me, not n squared minus 5. N minus 5 and n plus 5. Difference of squares right there. Minus 1 over 2n plus 10. I could factor out a 2, so I'd have 2 times n plus 5. So again, I have to think about what would my lowest common denominator be. Well, I need to represent each piece of the denominator in the lowest common denominator. So notice that I have an n minus 5, I have an n plus 5, I also have a 2, and then I have another n plus 5. So that's already being represented with the n plus 5. So I have to ask myself, okay, if this is my lowest common denominator, looking over here at the left-hand ratio, what am I missing? What am I missing from this denominator that is what I need for the lowest common denominator? Fortunately, it's something pretty simple. It's just 2. So I need to multiply both the numerator and the denominator by 2. So I'd have 2n over 2 times n minus 5, n plus 5. No need to multiply those out at this point. Minus, notice that for the right-hand ratio, I am missing the n minus 5. So I'd have to multiply by n minus 5 over n minus 5. Okay, now when I multiply this one out, I get n minus 5 over 2 times n plus 5 times n minus 5. Gotta move up there for a little more space. So now I'm gonna go ahead and put all of these over the same denominator since I made the lowest common denominator. So this would be 2 times n minus 5 times n plus 5. Okay, and then I'd have 2n minus n, and remember I have to distribute that negative, so plus 5. Well, now if I simplify this further by combining like terms here in the numerator, I'd have 2n minus n, which gives me just n plus 5 over 2 times n minus 5 times n plus 5. Okay, so now notice that I have an n plus 5 and an n plus 5. Those two can cancel out, simplifying, going back to what we did yesterday, and you would be left with just 1 over 2 times n minus 5. That would be a great answer. Okay, so if you run across something that's a trinomial or binomial or really anything that has a degree of 2 or higher, you will probably need to factor before you can actually combine like terms by finding the least common denominator. So here are your board work questions. These are actually the self-tests. So questions, so if you go to page 58, there will be the solutions to the self-tests. So you should work in your group to complete each of these questions. Look at page 58, check your solutions. The nice thing is that those also have work. If you got the wrong solution, you can either, well, first and foremost, you should look and see if you can figure out where you went wrong. Second, you may ask the substitute if they can help you with it or figure out where you maybe made your mistake. And thirdly, if you need to ask another group, that would be okay as well. Your homework for tonight is page 58, set B, going over this. And then tomorrow we'll go over 3.3, which is just a little bit more to do with this. So go ahead and pause this screen, and I hope you all have a wonderful day and afternoon.